We got us a new piece of equipment to try out. A few weeks ago, Eric went down to the farm show down in Poultry. What's the name of that? Is it the Sun Belt?
Farm Expo.
So Eric went down to the Sun Belt Farm Expo a couple weeks back and brought home a Crustbuster. So we've been talking with our friends over at Lewis Brothers for a while and finally worked out to get together with them. So we're going to try this out. Basically, it's going to pulverize the litter in the chicken houses. So since we sold chickens, we haven't done anything to the litter yet. So we'll be starting out with a lot of crusting. We're going to get this thing ready and see how it runs.
And hooking everything up, the PTO shaft's too long to hook to our tractor. So we are going to have to cut this shaft off, which is not something that is desirable, but is something that is necessary. So I'm assuming I get these honors, that way when something goes wrong I'll be blamed for it. That's kind of how things work around here.
Quit rambling and start cutting.
Here we go. For once. Now that would cut you.
So we're hooking this one up. This is our John Deere 4066 amp.
So we have a PLR Poultry Litter Rejuvenator now, and they have gone out of business. So we purchased this to do the same thing we were doing with that. Get in our corners, close to our walls. If it's really deep, kind of grind it up before we crust. And we'll give you the complete honest rundown. We've used a lot of Lewis Brothers equipment. We've got 2 or 3 crusters, a couple of pull type windrowers made by Lewis Brothers. Everything we've ever owned has been built with quality. They don't pay me to say that. Obviously, I'm just telling you, in my experience, it's been really good equipment. So we made the purchase on this, and we'll give you the rundown of what we like, what we don't like. One thing I have seen that's nice, they have made this to where you can take those bolts out and drop that whole shaft out. So if you have issues, see how that's put together in there? You can take this plate off, take that edge off, you can drop that whole shaft out for repairs. So they have they've thought it through.
Look at how clean it is.
It'll never be this clean again.
After a couple rounds of guessing and checking, this is what we cut off. So we cut each shaft 3 different times. We've cut it twice and then try it, get a little bit closer, but we've got it now to where you can hook the PTO shaft up even with it on the tractor, which sometimes if they're a little bit too long, you hook the PTO up first. But with this one, should be good to go. Have you ever run a brand new piece of equipment
I don't think so.
in the poultry houses? Maybe other than a tractor?
A tractor, but an implement I've always bought used.
Moving on up in the world. And so Eric went down to the show with his dad. I had to stay back at the farm on chicken and daddy duty.
Yeah, don't act like you were working too hard.
We had chickens.
Don't act like
And
you were working too hard.
my little girl was like 2 weeks old then.
Don't act like you were working too hard.
Says the guy who was out shopping.
Fire in the hole.
Sounds like it works.
Alright guys, so one more thing that I'm going to show you a new product. Bought this on my own, so obviously this is not something else paid by them, but this is a 3M product. I usually have just this 3M 6900 mask with the filters on the side, but a local farmer showed me this, and it's a battery unit, and it's rechargeable battery, of course, and it's constantly blowing fresh air. It's a little pricey as in maybe $500, $520 or $30. I know that's a big investment, but when you're breathing in there, I just went through my first flock with it to kind of give it a trial, and highly recommend it. I usually get sinus infections every time I sell out chickens and have to work this fine litter, but I didn't have that this past time, so it was, you know, well worth that for me with a rechargeable battery. As long as you take care of it, should be good for a long time. You also, these are screw-on type filters, and I have ordered a few extra of those filters. It just basically, all it does is unscrew. Very simple setup. It caps off where the filters usually are. You simply plug into the battery unit, flip it on, fresh air. We'll put a link to it in the video below, and you guys can see it in our Amazon store if you're interested in ordering one. I highly recommend them. If something happened to this today, I'd have to work a little extra to buy another one for tomorrow.
Here we are. This is what we're left with at the end of a flock. So like I said, nothing's been done to the litter yet. The really rough part of it is underneath these water lines, which is where Eric's going to start. So it's leaning, when he sets it down, it's leaning a little bit towards the back. With it being our first time using it, we'll probably have to make some adjustments to get it just right. That's what he's about.
running the worst litter that we have. So far, doing an excellent job.
What we run into, especially going into these winter month flocks, sorry, I know the lighting's probably not great in here, but it is what it is. What we'll run into with these winter month flocks is you're restricted on your ventilation throughout your flock. So you end up with floors that are wetter than what you like. If you come in here and just run a cruster, you're going to take out a bunch of litter, your litter's going to be too thin, and then you start your chickens out on litter that's too thin, or you have to supplement some. So all this right here, that's pretty wet. You can ball that up. This right here can sit for a day or two. We'll run fans on it, get plenty of fans going, hopefully pull plenty of dry air across it, dry that up, and then we'll come back through and probably hit it with the cruster. Or we may just run the Crustbuster again and do this whole process again. What do you think?
I like it. It's doing what we bought it to do. Most of the time we're running something used that's got duct tape on it. It's nice to run something that's quality, new, held up. What are your thoughts?
It's doing a dang good job. I like seeing those corners getting cleaned up.
I mean, it's worth it for the corners.
So we've been through all 8 houses now with the Crustbuster, gotten this litter all busted up, as you'd say. You can kind of see here, ran it under those water lines. That's where most of our crusting is. The litter was still a little bit wetter than what we wanted. We don't have a whole lot of time in between flocks to get ready for the next one, so we have decided we're going to hook our crusters up, go through and take a little bit of this out, hopefully take out some of that moisture, and then probably run that Crustbuster back around again to put the finishing touches on everything before we start getting ready for chickens again. So a little bit of crusting, back to the Crustbuster. So y'all stay with us and we'll show y'all what it looks like as we go. We're wrapping up our partial crusting job. Eric's still down there getting one more load out. So you can kind of see this is under the water lines here. This litter's in a lot better shape. We were able to take out a lot of that wet litter, but because we ran that Crustbuster first, we didn't just take it out in sheets, so that helps maintain our litter depth, but also get this litter cleaned up. So now I think we're in good shape. We'll hook that Crustbuster back up. We'll run it back through. We'll go wall to wall. In my houses, I've got this clean out board on the side wall. It keeps the litter from getting in between those posts. Eric doesn't have that, so a lot of times we'll have to go back through and hand rake that out, which gets pretty old. But I'm gonna be able to run that Crustbuster right up against that board and get it looking good in here. Sounds like you're running a vacuum cleaner. What do you think?
They should make prisoners do that.
We're back at it today. I'm about to hook this Crustbuster back up and run it some more. I'll show you. So Eric's been going through. You can see where he's raked away from his walls. He's got the post. That black stuff and yellow stuff is foam insulation. So you can't really run anything up against the wall without tearing the insulation off. But he is going through and hand raking it. It's miserable. But getting all that away from the walls. We're going to do something a little different. He's going to run the cruster back through on his houses. I'm going to run the Crustbuster back through. And we're going to have kind of a comparison to see how our ammonia is starting out the flock and kind of just what the floor looks like when we're done. But just wanted to show you kind of where he was doing some raking. We'll get out of here before he hands me a rake. Go hook up the Crustbuster, get back at it. We finished up our litter, got everything smoothed back down. We switched it up a little bit. So down at my farm, I ran the Crustbuster underneath each one of these water lines here. So I did a pass, because this is where the bulk of your crusting is after a flock. Broke some of that litter up, turned around, came back in with the cruster and ran the same path. So under all these water lines, taking out a lot of those big chunks. Once I did that, then I hooked the Crustbuster back up and I went wall to wall. So got everything from there all the way to here, ran over everything, trying to get everything good and ground up. Eric, what he did at his farm, same thing with the Crustbuster starting out. He ran his water lines with the cruster, but then he came back and did wall to wall crusting. So we'll show you what his litter looks like compared to mine. This is our litter once we have gone back through and smoothed it out with a railroad iron, so we're actually ready to start letting our equipment down. But what you can see down here at my farm is there are still some chunks left in it. Most of the time we try to get as much of that out or ground up as possible. The Crustbuster does a pretty good job, but it's not going to get it quite as fine as we like without doing some crusting also. What's your take on it?
I think you guys probably have seen one of our videos in the past where we used what we call a PLR, which is a Poultry Litter Rejuvenator. The whole reason we have a Lewis Brothers now is because PLR's out of business, and the PLR will grind the litter up finer. It does a better job with that, but it doesn't work as well when they first take the chickens out of the house. If you go in there initially when the litter's wet with the PLR, you're going to break shear pins. You can't go slow enough even with a hydrostatic transmission because it's trying to grind it up so fine and it's so wet. So in a perfect world, you would use the Lewis Brothers and then come behind it with a PLR, and that would be the finishing touch, which we're trying to be as economical as possible, and we understand that. So we'll show you the difference in the two. I would grade this litter, I would give this a B. Maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of right there on the edge of, am I going to be battling ammonia this flock, right, or, you know, is everything good?
And we know that going into it. It's kind of a trial to see, is it worth the extra work? So in a nutshell, the only difference in this litter you see down here and what you'll see at my farm is he went wall to wall with the Crustbuster that we just bought. I went wall to wall with our Lewis Brothers cruster and took this stuff out. Will it benefit me much more? Probably not.
We're about to find out.
But that's what this video is about. And
we both put out PLT to control our ammonia. We'll be putting the same amount, same size house. You know, everything is set up pretty much the same. So we'll have a good idea of, I guess, which route may have been better as far as getting the litter ready. So we'll head up to Eric's farm and we'll show you what the litter looks like up there. So this is the litter in my house. You can just see that there's a lot less of the small crusting left. It's more powder. I'll show you kind of real dry and powdery. You just have,
you know, you're still going to have that size, but you don't have the bigger chunks left. So we'll be the guinea pigs and let you guys know what works best. This may put off less ammonia, and it may slick over slower. You know, it may absorb more. We don't know. Only one way to find out, so y'all stay tuned.
If y'all have any questions about our process, the Crustbuster, crusters, any of the things we do, leave those down in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you.